Hello, everybody. Well, it's noon, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Mark Christ. I'm the poor man's Rachel Silva, and I work for the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program. Welcome to the Sandwiching in History Tour of Idlewild Park. Can everyone hear me okay? No. No? Oh boy.
Yes.
Good. After last month, I'm a little sensitive. So. I'd like to thank Sandra Taylor Smith, the director of the North Little Rock History Commission, Jared Craig, our UALR graduate assistant, and Audrey Bertram Stanley for their help with today's tour, and also Mayor Joe Smith for not charging us for the use of the building today. This tour is worth 1 hour of HSW continuing education credit through the American Institute of Architects. So see me after the tour if you're interested in that. Now, next month's tour will be at the John F. Weinman House at 2214 South Battery Street in Little Rock. And I'm pleased to introduce you all to Revis Edmonds, our new Preservation Outreach Coordinator, who will be leading future Sandwiching in History tours. We grabbed Revis as soon as the ink dried on his doctorate from the Arkansas State University Heritage Studies program. Okay, I'm going to start with some Park Hill history. The Park Hill housing development, which now encompasses more than 1,600 acres, was the brainchild of businessman Justin Matthews. Matthews was born in 1876 near Monticello, Arkansas, and moved to Little Rock in 1901. He opened the Rose City Cotton Oil Mill in 1902 and amassed a considerable amount of money, which enabled him to invest heavily in real estate, and he bought land on a hill just beyond the northern boundary of North Little Rock. But the north side of the Arkansas River was low-lying and swampy. Most of the streets were unpaved, and there was no drainage or sewer system. Water usually stood on the streets after each heavy rain, making them impassable, so not the best place for development. Justin Matthews spearheaded the plan to create improvement districts in North Little Rock to fund the paving of city streets, a sewer and drainage system in 1913 and 14, and construction of the Broadway Bridge over the Arkansas River in 1923, which if you go visit it now, you can watch it being taken down to be replaced. Matthews also had the Main Street Viaduct over the railroad yard between 9th and 13th Streets rebuilt to handle increased traffic in 1927. These public improvements played an instrumental role in the growth of North Little Rock by making it easily accessible and more desirable, but they also helped Matthews develop his own land north of the river. It was no accident that the Arkansas-Missouri Highway, which is our modern JFK Boulevard, was one of the first paving projects undertaken by the state's first highway commission. Matthews was appointed to the commission, and the highway just happened to be the main thoroughfare through the Park Hill development. Park Hill was the first major suburban development in North Little Rock and the second development in the greater Little Rock area, with Pulaski Heights being the first, being platted in 1892. Matthews platted the first sections of Park Hill in 1921 on land he had purchased. Because Matthews had worked to improve North Little Rock's roads and bridges, Park Hill was easily accessible by automobile. So even though Park Hill was the Little Rock area's second major suburban development after Pulaski Heights, it was the first to rely solely on automobile transportation. Pulaski Heights was developed with streetcars as a major means of transportation. Park Hill was advertised as the second Pulaski Heights, but with more advantages, like closer proximity to downtown Little Rock and North Little Rock, greater elevation, which provided cooler temperatures in the summer months, and better views and level land. His advertisements even mentioned the fact that the roads leading to Park Hill ran north and south, so you wouldn't have to face the sun driving to and from work. Pulaski Heights was located west of downtown, so you get that every day. Matthews formed the Park Hill Land Company to market, sell, and develop the area, while the Justin Matthews Company supervised other projects in central Arkansas, including Lakewood, Sylvan Hills, Country Club Manor, which is near the current North Hills Country Club, and Kellogg Acres. At its peak, the Park Hill Land Company employed more than 200 people, including an architect and builder, a brick mason, horticulturist, landscape artist, and road construction engineer. The Justin Matthews Company proclaimed that they built houses to, quote, endure the ravages of time. Matthews cautiously opened one section of Park Hill at a time. In the first 8 years of development, 159 houses and a school were built. The most intense periods of development were in the 1920s and 1940s. Park Hill initially took off in the 20s. Development slowed in the 30s because of the Great Depression, and then picked up in the 1940s, first because men stationed in nearby Camp Robinson for training during World War II, and then in the post-war building boom. I'm going to talk about the parks of Park Hill. One of Matthews' priorities was to include public areas throughout his developments. An undated newspaper clipping in the files of the North Little Rock History Commission features the headline, "Matthews gives to Park Hill many parks and playgrounds." It begins by lamenting the lack of parks in North Little Rock before extolling Matthews' virtues. It continues, "Our Park Hill and Sylvan Hills areas are especially blessed with an abundance of public parks. It has always been the policy of Justin Matthews to dedicate to the public a plot of land for a public park, with each tract of land platted. There are more than a dozen public-owned parks in Park Hill and Sylvan Hills. Some are only small triangular parks, others comprise a block or more, while one park in Sylvan Hills dedicated to the public by Mr. Matthews has about a mile and a half front. If other subdividers would adopt Mr. Matthews' view, our park and playground problems would in a few years be solved." Now, Matthews created 5 parks in Park Hill. The Lakewood Park and the T.R. Pugh Memorial Park, which we know better as the Old Mill, as well as Crestview Park, feature concrete sculptures created by the acclaimed Mexican sculptor Dionisio Rodriguez. T.R. Pugh Park was public, constructed in 1933 to be a tourist destination because Matthews really couldn't sell property in Lakewood during the Depression. Lakewood Park was part of the Lakewood development after World War II and was restricted to Lakewood property owners, but it is now public. Now, a triangular park Matthews deeded to the public in 1921 is near Idlewild Park. He named it Lewis Alzheimer Park, but it was renamed Ferneyhoff Park in 2001 after an adjacent neighbor who took care of it for many years. According to Sandra Taylor Smith, it was never really known as Alzheimer Park in her lifetime, but it may have been earlier. It is located at the corner of Plainview Circle and East C Avenue if you want to check that out later. The 5th park is the subject of our tour today, Idlewild Park. And before I go further, I want to thank Sandra Taylor Smith again and Jared Craig, our UALR Public History graduate student, for the great detective work they did in finding out information about this park. So according to a May 25, 1924 Arkansas Gazette article, a newly paved section of road running along Idlewild to 5 Points, quote, runs the full length of a triangular park that comprises nearly 2 acres. And 5 Points was where North and South Idlewild, East and West Garland, and Quapaw Place intersected. So we know that the park was in place by 1924, but where did the Fieldstone building and these other amenities come from? That answer might lie in the depths of the Great Depression. Project number 3-50-G-119 of the Works Progress Administration, a federal relief program that has left an indelible mark on Arkansas's built environment, was dated August 6, 1935. It set aside $56,251 to, quote, construct public playground and grandstand. A March 18, 1936 supplement to that project raised the amount to $172,715 and amended the project to, quote, grading, draining, and landscaping for a public playground and construction of a grandstand. This, I would submit, was the likely source of the building and amenities at Idlewild Park, which includes these retaining walls, that Roman bath-like structure there, and the only WPA-built kiva I think I've seen anywhere in the state of Arkansas. The 1939 Sanborn fire insurance map for the area shows that the building was in place by then, and a May 30, 1940 Arkansas Gazette article shows that it was being used by the Boy Scouts. In 1946, North Little Rock annexed the Park Hill neighborhood, and in 1947, the first lots sold in Lakewood. Lakewood was advertised as an expansion of Park Hill, and it was a planned development from the very beginning. On June 8, 1947, an Arkansas Democrat article proclaimed that development of a Park Hill recreational area got underway this week, following the announcement that a triangular tract in Goshen and Idlewild had been obtained for use as a playground. In addition, three lots on the northwest corner of that intersection are to be purchased and converted into tennis courts. The triangular plot is to be furnished with slides, swings, and other equipment for use by younger children, while the tennis courts will serve to attract teenage groups. The plot already has a number of improvements and has served as a park for many years. A small stone building located on the west side will still be used for Boy Scout activities on certain evenings. The area also includes several barbecue pits, stone benches, walks, and other improvements. So there you are. Now, this equipment apparently remained in place for 40 years, and in October of 1987, around 125 people gathered here in Idlewild Park to meet with then Mayor Terry Hartwick, who now runs the North Little Rock Parks and Recreation Department, to discuss concerns about the condition of the park. The mayor urged them to bring their concerns to the city's Parks and Recreation Committee, and when asked by a youngster if the kiva was a wishing well, Hartwick replied, "Yeah, you throw all your pennies in there and we'll come by and take them out every 4 weeks." Now, I'm not suggesting that was the funding mechanism, but major improvements were made at the park. The city paid around $50,000 to rehabilitate the old Boy Scout building and for other improvements. We can all appreciate the results of those efforts today as we enjoy Idlewild Park, and the building is still used by such groups as the Park Hill Neighborhood Association. And that's what I have. Does anybody have any questions?
How did Idlewild get the name? Why did they call it Idlewild?
It's named after the street. So
I mean the street too. Were they idling down there wild? Or?
That's as good a
I used to kick my old 51 Chevy out of gear up here and let it roll down, you know. I didn't know.
That might be it. Yes, ma'am.
Am I the only one here that lives on Idlewild?
No, Mrs. Harp lives on Idlewild.
Oh, I didn't see you, Betty. Yes, she sure does. Well, we've been here a long time, and my son used to scout here. Yeah, he didn't get his eagle here, but, and did you say that, I know they have a new roof, but I don't, has the crowd been inside? You were started a few minutes before I got here.
Yeah, no, whenever we're done here, then everyone's welcome to tour through the building and walk around the grounds.
Well, you did a fabulous job.
Thank you.
I wanted to introduce Debbie Rawls, who's one of the aldermen in this ward, and we're going to shamelessly plug another historic site in North Little Rock. So.
While she's getting up there, I have something a little kind of funny to tell you about Idlewild. My husband and I had married. No, let's see, we had not married at that time. I was riding his horse, and we kept them out on Conway, somewhere out that way. And so we would ride over and ride down what is now Idlewild. It was about as wide as this sidewalk. And the horse ran away with.
Okay, there's the name right there.
Idlewild. That's it.
That's it.
So my first home, no, not my first home, but I've lived on Idlewild for 45, 50 years, maybe 50. 50 more, oh, let's see, I can't do math. Anyway, I thought that was funny that the horse ran away with me on Idlewild. And if it hadn't been for 8th Street Hill, he finally stopped. The more you would pull back, the faster he would run. Now that's horses, they have a name for that, but I have a name for it too. Well, anyway, that's part of the name.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What exactly is that supposed to be used for? What is that?
I couldn't tell you what the original intent was, but it's just cool.
Well, it is, but I'd like to know what it was.
This lady over here is saying it's an amphitheater.
Yeah, that's probably the amphitheater.
So that's probably the grandstand they were talking about. Just not it's not like War Memorial size, but it's quite nice.
Kind of skinny seating.
Exactly.
I want to get a little, well, two plugs. One is to our Parks and Rec department. They've done a fantastic job. I know if you've lived around here and you've seen this park, it was really sad. The roof was falling in, the inside was horrible. We had no ADA. If you were on a walker or wheelchair, there was no way you could get into the building. And so just probably within the past 4 months, we've got the new roof. The inside, it's not quite completed yet. The wood inside replaced some plastic siding that was in there, and it hasn't been stained or painted, so there's still work to be done in there. We've got a ramp to be installed here, so if you are in a wheelchair that you'll be able to get inside. So huge thank you to our Parks and Rec. Now this is our shameless plug for something else too, but the Friends of the Old Mill, if you're not familiar with Old Mill, get with us afterwards, we should let you know about it. Okay, the Old Mill, this is a plug for the Old Mill. On October the 25th, the Friends of the Old Mill, they've kind of sunk in the past few years, so they're trying to revive that group, Friends of the Old Mill. October the 25th, they're having an open house from 2 to 6. They will have guides there, information. They're looking for any kind of volunteers or just come out and visit. They're going to have hot dogs from 2 to 6 on October the 25th, and they would love to see you there also. More history for North Little Rock.
Thank you. All right, if there are any other questions, otherwise feel free to wander through the building and check out these other cool things. Oh, yes, ma'am. Well, I called it a kiva. I think it's a barbecue pit is what it's intended as, but it looks like something you'd see in the southwestern United States more than, North Little Rock.
Maybe a fire pit.
All right. Well, feel free to visit. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next month.